Thank you for tuning in into Community TV 1. My name is Martin Byrd. As the nation is finalizing its Black History programs, Southwest Florida is just getting started. Here is a look at your community calendar. At 6 p.m. tonight, the ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha, Theta Nu Omega chapter presents the tour of the motherland, Madam C.J. Walker, at the Dunbar Community School. Tickets are $5. If you're planning to visit the ladies of AKA tonight, make sure you're dressed to impress. For at 7 p.m. at the Dr. Care Robinson Center, the Lee County Black History Society is hosting its second annual Black History Legends Gala under the theme, Reading, Writing, and Civil Rights, honoring the legacy of students, teachers, and civil rights leaders of the desegregation era. This Wednesday at 5 p.m. in the Cohen Ballroom at Florida Gulf Coast University, WGCU Studios will be premiering its documentary commemorating the 50th year anniversary of the desegregation of Lee County schools. The film will be previewed tonight at the Black History Legends Gala. And the last event of this month will take place at the Clemente Park next Saturday, a partnership between the Lee County Black History Society and the Florida Archaeological Network. On February 28th from 10 to 2 p.m., the community will be getting an opportunity to celebrate 150 years of African-American contributions to Fort Myers. Don't miss it. This has been a CTV1 Community Calendar News Break.
You ever wanted to know what's going on in and around your community? CommunityTV1.com is your answer. Go ahead, log on to www.communitytv1.com and get your info on.
Thank you once again for joining us here on Pillars of Success. I am Martin Byrd, and I'm sitting here with the great pastor for the Cornerstone Ministries, the author of the new book, From No Man to God's Man. And before we went to break, you was telling us about growing up in the park down in Collier County.
Right down in the River Park area, actually. Was growing up there back in the early 60s, okay? I just want to give you that, that's all. Early 60s, I was, growing up in that community. It was a hard-working community, people that worked and people that took care of their families, very religious community because we believed in going to church and participating in those things like that. But it was also the area where I was in my formative years,
Yes.
So where I was kind of like, being trained and, inducted into different kind of things, yeah.
So, growing up, you were middle child, you had an older brother, younger brother. What was your relationship with your parents and your brothers?
Well, our family was real close, very close family there. But we had, when I was 11 years old, my father did pass, and we went through that where we had just the one parent in the home for a long time. And then, that episode of my father leaving kind of like shook the family a little bit because he was like the breadwinner. He was the one that really made it happen for us. And my mom was a working woman as well, but at the same time, now she's carrying the load. She's had to do it all. And my older brother, which Leaford, who's known in the community around here pretty much, he was kind of like, he's like 6 years our senior, he's like, he thought he was Papa, so he kind of took on that role, and we wasn't gelling with that, because we was me and my younger brother Nate, we kind of like, we weren't with that program too much because he really tried to boss us around. But anyway, we did eventually get things together, and we turned it out to be a great family.
He's working over with you at the church now?
Yes, he's diligently working as one of our elders, and, God has worked some miracles with that, okay?
He brought you guys back together, and you spoke about the death of your father. I know around the age of 11, he got terminally ill, and that was a huge turning point in your life.
Well, I love my father. I mean, my father he was my role model, and I'm not saying my dad was a perfect man, and a lot of times people, They want perfection out of people, but they think those dads supposed to be with. But he was my dad, regardless of, he did drink, he did, hang out and did do his little thing. But yet he was my dad. But at 11 he died. Had a massive heart attack at home when he used to like to watch Gunsmoke, on Monday night, actually this is how it all played out. He had like 2 weeks before he came home, he had a stroke. So they let him come home, and then that Monday night in which he came home, that Monday evening, we was home that night watching Gunsmoke, and he said, "Greg, take me to bed. I'm tired. I want to go to bed." So I walked him into his room and helped him, make it to the bed, and he kind of like, fell back on the bed, and had a heart attack right then. And they're watching it, and it was kind of a shocking situation for me because I'd never been there and didn't really know what was going on.
11 years old, watching your father going through a heart attack.
Yeah, that was a traumatic situation, and I didn't know that, I was dealing with that for some years.
And as you said, that was a major turning point in your life after your father died and your brother Lee stepped up and your mom eventually remarried.
Yeah.
And how long after your father's deceasing did your mom
That was
remarry?
probably 2 to 3 years, I think, after my father had passed, that she had remarried, and I gave this guy, a tough time because, I didn't see nobody taking my dad's place, you know what I mean? And I was rebellious, and I think I was still kind of like dealing with the situation of watching my father die and going through that. And I was angry, and I was upset, and a lot of time I didn't know I was depressed. I didn't, nobody sat there and go through the psychological things with you, but I was playing it all out with rebellion, man. I was like, I turned into the black sheep of the family for real, because I started hanging out with the wrong crew, wrong places, doing the wrong things. At the age of 13, man, I'm like, freebasing and smoking crack and coke. And I mean, it was wild.
What exactly is freebasing?
Well, that's when they take coke in its original form and they cook it themselves in tubes or whatever and turn it into a hard form so they can smoke it. But that was before, crack came out.
At age 13, you were doing this.
At age 13, tea, speed, all different kind of pills, man, and just doing everything, marijuana, partying in the wrong place. I was with my group that I was hanging out with was 12 to 15 years older than me. I never hung out with guys my age.
And as you were writing the book, I know all these thoughts and emotions was coming out. The effect of hanging out with those older guys, they were taking the spot kind of your dad.
Yeah, but they wasn't teaching me the right things. They were showing me the world, the fast life. They were showing me the money. They were showing me how to party, how to have a good time. And a lot of times, I don't think they meant to do it just to turn me out or whatever. Yeah. But it just wasn't a bad thing for me because now instead of things getting better for me, they got worse for me, And now I'm the first one to go to jail, first one to go to rehab, first one to go to stockades, and then eventually the first one in my family to go to prison. So all that happened.
How was your mother responding to this? A church-going woman?
Oh, my mother was a woman of God. She was a very prophetic woman, very well known in the community, and she we had, thank God for her because we had a real powerful presence of God in our home at all times. Because it was my mom, who would talk to us about God and share with us about Him. And it was her that one time told me about it. She said, "Hey, boy, you been riding that bus to school?" She would have these visitations from God, and she would have these praise moments and these outbursts and all these different things going on because she would really praise God different than most people. And she was our anchor. She was our person to go to when we had trouble. I mean, whether it be physical, financial, whatever, she was our counselor.
And I know you had a couple of interventions in between your as you were going in and out of the drugs. How was that affecting you going home to your mother and knowing that she was church going and you were supposed to be in school and you were skipping the bus? And
well, that wasn't cool with her, but somehow or another God revealed it to her. I mean, and she'd be praying for me and praying over me, because one day, like I was saying earlier, one day she woke up one morning and she says, "Greg, have you been riding that bus to school?" And I said, "Yes, Mom. I've been riding that bus." I'm like lying. I'm like going off here like on the wrong direction. She says, "Greg, I saw in a vision last night you in an accident, and you better be riding that bus." And I said, Mom, you know I'm going to the bus. And I go to the bus stop. I do that faithfully. Yeah. I'm faithful to that. You know what I mean? I go to the bus stop. But once my friend picks me up at the bus stop and we go other places. Yeah. So, but I was faithful for going. But then it was like 2 weeks later after she spoke to me, okay? Halloween morning. I mean, you know, this is 1977. I got in a train accident. And so everything that she spoke, it came to pass.
Tell us about the experience. I know that was really severe experience. You spent days in the hospital, surgery. Tell us about exactly the details of that accident.
Well, the accident, oh man, really, I should tell you all the details. I was kind of like, I didn't know. You know, this is the amazing part of the whole story is because, of course, that morning we get up and go, and I asked my friend to take me by my brother's house, Lee. Because I left some stuff there. We were in a band at the time, and we had to play at this Halloween concert at Fleshman's Park down in Naples. And so we're all getting there. We had rehearsal, and I left my stuff there, so I need to go over there and get it. So they dropped me off there. And so as I kind of went into that situation, we leave the house, and now we start going to the school because the school is like Lake Park Elementary Schools, where his house is in front of. Okay. So it's not real far, you know. We saw a couple of streets down to the high school. So we're leaving and we're coming across and we had our music on. And we get ready to get to the railroad tracks because I know we had a big 2-door Grand Prix, with the heavy doors.
Real nice.
Yeah, man. and I can tell. And I was talking to him and looking down, looking through the song book. And we was like partying a little bit. Had the music up loud, window cracked a little bit. And I just remember him getting to the tracks, slowing down, creeping over the tracks. You know how you get to the tracks. You like creep over the tracks. So he kind of like was creeping over the tracks, and then that's all I remember. 4 days later, I wake up in the hospital, wondering and looking at my brother all attached to all these tubes in ICU, and I looked at him and said, "What am I doing here?" He said, "You don't know?" I said, "No." He says, "Stop joking with me, man. You don't know what happened to you." I said, "No, I don't," and I really didn't, because when that nose of that train hit that passenger's door, I was riding shotgun, took us down the track, and I was underneath the car when it was all over. The impact of that hit was so powerful on my head. It was so powerful that from that moment, from the hit to the time that I woke up in there, I really, didn't know. Because this doctor said that after my first examination, after entering to the emergency room, they said if you were going to live, he said, "Mother, based on what we see right now in the preliminary examinations, that if he's going to live, he's going to be a vegetable." Wow. And my stepfather, Mr. Chestnut, left town. He had to go for a ride when the doctors told him that. And so my mother didn't quit on that. She prayed. She went before God. And she had a community of other pastors and leaders and friends praying because we needed God to do something different. And so as the doctor was in doing the surgery and working on my brain and had opened me up and everything, trying to put my face back together because, see, my whole face had to be rebuilt. My nose had to be replaced and everything. And I went through a whole lot. So that was a traumatic moment for me. But when all that came to pass, God worked miracles, and then look at me today. You don't see.
You're not a vegetable.
No, thank you. Glory to God.
And in that life, this accident happens. You're 4 days out of it, and you're like, "Okay, God saved my life." Running through your mind, what changes?
Nothing. Nothing really, because I go right back to doing what I do, I mean, sometimes you would figure something like that would change it. Well, I guess for a little while I was kind of, I kind of stayed under the grips and did what I was supposed to. I eventually went off to college. I graduated from high school and went off on to college and went to South Florida. I spent some time there, but I fooled around and got with the wrong crew, in that area. And guess what? It is just back to, the old Greg, and Greg was, fast laning it in the wrong place, wrong time, wrong people, just out there. But I was in school. I was in Tampa, but I wasn't doing what I was supposed to do.
So you went off to school. You got rid of the wrong crowd. Somehow you find your way back to South Florida.
Well, I didn't find my way back. It was a little different.
You was forced back.
Well, you know, brought back. Anyway, let's say that. What happened was, you know, since some earlier things that I had gone through, it caused me to be on probation.
Yes.
So you know, my probation allowed me to go off to college and do what I was supposed to do. But while I was there, I got with the wrong people, like I said. But I eventually violated my probation. So one night, I'm working at night, you know, I'm kind of like, you know, trying to get a little change, you know, to try to take care of things. And I worked at a Huddle House, you know, like a Waffle House. It's almost the same kind of style. I worked at the Huddle House, and one night I'm sitting there, and I'm the graveyard, you know, cook, you know, so late night shift. So I'm watching everything, and I'm seeing these sheriff's cars go around this way, and I see them going around this way. And then I see one come up front, and I'm like saying, okay, this ain't normal. I know they're not just coming to eat, you know, because, you know, they do come by at night sometime and eat. But this was not the normal entrance, you know, these guys. So next thing I know, I lose sight of the cars, but I see coming around both ends of the building, you know, is these sheriffs. And they walk all the way around in the front, and they walk right into the front. And they asked the ladies, is there a Greg Ford here? Okay, the waitress, they walk right in the door, and the place is full, okay? I mean, everybody can see you. You know, it ain't like you're out of sight there. But they arrested me that night.
They arrested you.
Yeah.
And then that started the process?
Well, on my way back to Naples, yeah, that started it.
All right, we're going to pick up right there. When we come back from our break, we're going to pick up right here. Pastor Ford, author of From No Man to God's Man.
The City of Fort Myers has supported new and early-stage businesses by providing a location and technical assistance to new business owners. Tenants also have access to free business consulting, professional receptionist office, free Wi-Fi, 2 conference rooms, a large training room, copier and fax. Many new businesses now operating successfully have had their start at the Southwest Florida Enterprise Center. If you have a business idea, call 239-321-7085 and come join us.
Hello everyone, my name is Victoria, your community tax lady from Tax Care. I'm here to tell you about a few of our services. Today I would like to tell you about our tax services. Many of you may have received letters from the IRS or even just need your taxes prepared. Well, in our office we are experts in federal tax law. Many of you do not like to deal with the IRS, but you know what? I love it. And we are very successful in dealing with the IRS. So if you have any tax questions concerning your individual taxes or business, please give us a call at 239-693-8428 because we can solve all of your tax problems. Thank you.
I have been handling personal injury cases for 25 years. And people ask me questions each and every day about personal injury cases. These are some of their questions.
If someone is in a car accident, how does he or she know that they have a case?
You may have a case if the other car was at fault and you were injured because of their fault. But even if you are partially at fault, if the other car is also partially at fault, then you may still have a case. But the best thing to do, just give me a call. Let's talk about it.
What types of compensation may be available in a personal injury case?
In a personal injury case, whether we're talking about a slip and fall case or a car accident case, you may be entitled to payments for lost wages, medical bills, and pain and suffering. And we can get that either by settlement or taking your case to trial.
Where's your office located?
My main office is located in Fort Myers, a city in which I am proud to say I was born and raised. I also have an office in Fort Lauderdale, but my motto is, briefcase will travel. I handle cases throughout the entire state. I go wherever I am needed.
One more question. How much do you charge to handle a personal injury case?
More good news. My clients do not pay me any attorney's fees or costs unless we win. So give me a call. Call Attorney Joe North.
Thank you. We're back here once again with Greg Ford, the author of No Man to God's Man. And we left in the midst of a great story. The cops had surrounded you. You were up in Tampa, and they were coming from every which way.
Well, yeah, they came in and they asked for Gregory Ford, and of course every head in the restaurant looked up right at me, So they took me from there to Hillsborough Central, and from there, I was on my way back to Naples for violation charges, because I hadn't been doing what I was supposed to, So it was okay, but it was back to the old place.
All right, you went off to Tampa. You're kind of doing well. You're in school at least. Now you're back in Naples.
Yeah.
Back to our old ways.
Back to the old ways, back around the old fellas, doing some of the things that, I'm not proud of, because now I'm like, instead of being a drug dealer or just skipping school, now I'm just in the wrong place doing it full time. You know what I mean? I hadn't got so bad now, out on the streets that, my mom told me one day, she said, "You can't come to the house no more."
Wow.
I said, "What?" Because I started doing crazy things like stealing from her and taking from the house, and I wasn't proud of that. I'm not proud of that today, but that was where I was at that particular time in my life, because drugs and that addiction had me where, it wasn't me, it was the drugs, so they really had me doing that. So Mom came to me one day and said, "Hey, I can't deal with it no more. You can't come here no more. I'm turning you over to God." And I found out that, man, at first when I heard that, I thought that's the worst thing that could ever happen to me. That my mom, because she was always be there to help me when I get in a real jam, if I needed something to eat, if I needed to take a shower or whatever, get myself together. I lived in a room and house, but, a room and house and then having your own place ain't the same. No. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, but she told me, "Greg, you can't come here no more. I'm through with you. I can't deal with it no more." And she said, "I'm turning you over to God." And at that time, I thought that was the worst thing that could happen to me. But later on in life, I found out that was the best thing that ever happened to me, because when she turned me over to God, she put me in the hands of the God who was able to heal, deliver, and set me free. And that's what happened. 6 months later, I find myself going to jail for the last time.
Right now, you just set it up perfectly. Last time you're going to jail, you find yourself, you've been running. Your mom's a praying woman. She's turned you over to God. Now you're having your Jonah experience. Tell us about this experience once you get in jail.
Well, now I'm in jail and I'm getting clean, having a lot of time to think, having a lot of time to process things. And so one day, I'm thinking this routine. I've been there almost now about 6 months in jail. It's a long time. After a while now, I'm like regular routine. I'm getting up and I'm thinking it's child time, and the officer says, "No, we got about an hour before child time." And I said, "Well, okay, I'll go back and lay in the bunk." So I went and sat down in the bunk, and I just laid back, and I thought I was just dozing off, and then I find myself dreaming about where I was, the life I had. Yeah. And I found myself right in a vision. I could see me. I could see me looking like me, like I was on the streets, I didn't have no shirt on, no hat, I was so little, this is how little I was, man, that I could take the two loops on the side. I'm already wearing waist, my waist is 28, but I'm already having to get a string to tie on from one loop on this side to the loop on this side and tie them two together and make sure they hold together to keep me together. And I had a hat on my head, and I saw myself standing in River Park where the big tree is down there, and I saw this outside vision of people standing out there like a church without walls. And this guy was talking to these people, and I'm sitting there leaning on a car looking over at them. And while I'm looking at them, I'm saying, "Wow, what's, I couldn't hear what they were saying, but I can see what they were doing. And I hear everybody, those people in the audience was like looking up to him. And then this one lady kind of looked at me for a minute, and I looked at her, and we kind of eyed each other for a while, stared each other down, and that was it. And she went back and looking at the man, and I went back and started walking between the apartments. While I'm walking between the apartments, I'm saying, "Wait a minute, this ain't no dream. This is too real." This is too real. I mean, I can smell the air, I can touch the ground, everything is real. This is not no dream. I don't know how I got out of that jail.
You're in it.
I'm in it now, brother. This thing is live. And I said, "Man, I don't know how I got out of that jail." And I was trying to figure out how I can get back in that jail. Because because I know they're going to have count in a minute, and they're going to serve lunch, and I'm going to get in trouble because I don't get out of jail. So now I'm trying to figure out, first of all, how did I get out? I couldn't figure out how I can get out so I can get back in. And I'm sitting there freaking out, and I was just so frustrated with the fact that I couldn't figure out how I got out, and I couldn't figure out how I can get back in before it count. And I was just out there hiding. I knew the police was searching the area because I done escaped, and I know I'm gonna get it now, man. I ain't gonna never come home now. And I'm just like, oh Lord. And I was just like kind of panicking, real serious panic. I was having like a real anxiety attack right there in the middle of that vision. And then all of a sudden somebody shakes me. They say, Ford, wake up. It's chow time. And I said, what? I come up out of this sleep, and I looked, and I saw the jailers in my room. They were standing there shaking me, telling me to get up, it's time to go eat, it's chow time. And while I'm getting ready to go get the chow, you know, man, I was so glad to see that room. I got up, I was sweating like I just walked out of the shower without a towel, man. I just was like tripping. And then my eyes about the size of golf balls, man. And I got laid on the floor. I kissed the floor. I kissed the walls. I was so glad to be back in that jail. And man, I'm telling you, it was an experience like never before.
It had to be an experience to hear brother say, I was so glad to be back in that jail.
Yeah, I know. I thought I'd never say that. But right then, because of the out-of-body experience, and God's taking me, and as you read the book, you're going to get all the details on how that changed my life, because that was the moment of my conversion. That was the moment of my turnaround, the season that when God had decided that he was calling me and my time was now. He needed an answer from me. And after that visitation from God, you know, it was never an altar call that got me saved. No. Even though I thank God for all the calls, I do them every week.
Yes.
He said, but when God chooses you, sometime when he got Moses, he saw the bush on fire. Mm-hmm. You know, when he got Paul, he shined a light on the roadway to Damascus that was so bright that it blinded him. You know, and a woman at a well one afternoon that was married 5 times, shacking with number 6, when he called her into the ministry to change her life, he did it at a well. So God has different places, different locations, different ways, especially for those who have been chosen. And so I knew right then that I had work to do for God. And God said, listen, he showed me how much power he had over my life, that I got the power to cause you to live and the power to cause you to die. It's me that opens doors, and it's me that closes them. And so right then I said, Lord, I can't fight with you no more. You know, you got this. And it's been 27 years from that day to this day that I've been running for the Lord. 27
years. That's a long time.
Yes, sir.
You put the drug game behind finally.
Yes.
And now you're putting you in a place where you're out of jail now. How does the new Greg go out? Putting the nicknames away, the freebasing away, putting all of those stuff away.
Well, the new Greg is just exactly what he is. He's a new creature. You know, old things have passed away. Behold, all things have become new. Yes. Now, instead of him being the no man, he's the God man. And that's why the book is called The Journey, from no man to God man. My no man days were the days leading up to the day I had that conversion, that out-of-body experience. Yes. But from that moment, from the out-of-body experience until this day, you're dealing with God's man. And how God had walked me through, you know, so many seasons and have showed me so many things about my future and what the work he has for me. And why do I do what I do? Because I have a passion for the lost. I have a passion for the misfits and the dysfunctional, you know, because that's exactly where I was. Yes. You know, I was considered an outcast. I wasn't going to make it. Many said I wasn't going to live to be 20. But, you know, I'm 53 now. God, glory be to God. So, you know, and I'm still running.
And as a pastor now in the center of Fort Myers, relating to the different people in the community, we know how our community has been affected with drugs and the different culture that we have and the murdering. How have you used your experience down in Collier County and up in Tampa to say, hey, brother, I understand where you're coming from, and relating? Even 27 years later, you haven't forgot, and relating that to your brother or sister that comes in your church.
Well, I think a lot of times people need to see that you can recover from a great fall. Mm-hmm. I think sometimes we all make mistakes. We all start off sometime pretty rugged. Sometimes we get it around the wrong crew. Sometimes we learn and we speak or we say things that are not appropriate. But you can rebound. You can recover. And there is hope. You know, even there's mothers out there right now that have sons that are watching this broadcast and daughters that's watching this broadcast that's in the wrong place, doing the wrong thing at the wrong time, and it seems like, wow, this child is never going to get better. But I want you to know something, that don't give up on them, because God hasn't given up on them. And sometimes they have to go through something to get to something. And that's why you got to know that God is able to turn any situation around. Is there anything too hard for God? No. Your child, your son, your daughter, your grandson, your granddaughter, it doesn't matter, a friend or a relative, that person, amen, can be changed. And we have to pray through, and we got to believe God for them. And that's exactly what's going to have to happen.
Your testimony exactly proves that point.
Yeah.
You could have died in the train accident. You could have died from all those different drugs you were doing.
Right.
You see, your mother turned you over to God, and you continue to persevere now. What is the purpose of your church? How are you using your church within the community to do that thing where you were just speaking?
Well, we've had many programs, and yes, those programs still alive right now, like Help a Sister Out, where we deal with leading men. We had at one time the cave where we work with the men of our community, because I always believe that one time the weakest link in the community has been our men.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but I believe that men can be restored back to the king, to the prophet of their homes, to the provider of their homes. I think those things are possible. I just believe that there's somebody that has got to step out and be the pointer, to help point those men in the right direction, to deal with them and travail with them until Christ be formed in them. And the thing is, a lot of times people don't have the patience like they used to. They don't want to be midwives and stand in the gap and cover people. But no. I think it's important that Cornerstone has been doing that for years. We do that to help people. We help people in many ways. Mm-hmm. We do backpacks. We do food. Our pantries out every first and third Saturday mornings, giving our food to hundreds of families on the weekends. We do this thing. We do youth outreaches and things. So we're continually trying to reach our community and trying to transform them, because we know out in that community, there's a lot of Holly Rocks. Yeah. There's a lot of, what they call it. There's a lot of ham bones. There's a lot of young men and women come on here who are going through, on their way, or probably just trying to find their way. But I'm telling you, God can do it. I mean, we know there's still hope. There's still hope.
How was it writing this book, pouring out all those emotions and experiences and getting that all out? How was that experience?
And I think some of the hardest part was going through the part of the book where I had to talk about when angels fly. That was when I had to bury my mother. Mm-hmm. This is in my God's man days. Now, I'm now in the church, and I found out, even though in the no man days you hear about that, but when you get to the God man days, you find out that growing up in ministry, doing things in ministry, getting married, raising a family, raising a church, and there's many obstacles that come. But I had to bury that woman that I told you that I couldn't. I didn't know if I could deal with the fact that she told me I couldn't come to her house no more, that she still loved me, but she couldn't deal with me. And then I had to bury her. I had to let her go. She died at an early age of 58, and I had to do that, and that was a challenging moment for me. That was a challenging moment. And then my mother-in-law, burying her, because I put in that chapter we'll call When Angels Fly, because these women were like angels to me, and they were my helpmates. They were my helpers. They made me who I am.
You spoke about your mother-in-law. You've been married for about 20-something years as well.
Yes.
Co-pastor Marjorie.
Yes.
Is the name, right?
Yes. Joanna in the book.
Oh, yeah. Let's talk about this Joanna.
Yeah, she's Joanna. Someone always asks me, she said, who is Joanna? They can't figure out who it is. I said, well, that's actually her middle name. That's her name is Marjorie Joanna Kinchin, when I met her. But now, it's just Ford. But when we met in church, when I got out, and we talked about the beginning days when you was me riding a bicycle with a banana seat in the house trying to get my way to church, and then I tried to take her out to on a date one time, but I didn't have a car, so I asked her to get on the bicycle, You know, we're grown people, you know. So she said, no, you're crazy. I ain't riding no bicycle to no movies. So about a week or so later, she came and picked me up, and she had got a car. God had blessed her to get a car. And she came, and we dated for like 8 months, and we got married. And we've been married for 27 years.
You have 3 kids together.
3 kids, yeah.
And you're actually the father of 4.
Yes, my oldest daughter, you know, when I was out in the wilderness, you know, I had a little relationship with a young lady, and or physical encounter, you might want to call it.
Yeah.
And it resulted in the young lady who is my oldest daughter, who's a blessing. She's a blessing to me in my life. She has 2 daughters.
Yes.
Okay, so I got, as a matter of fact, the oldest one just graduated from high school. So I got, so I just say, well, you know, hey, I got grandkids that are up in age. You know, I think she's 17, 18 now. So, but her name is Zaza, is my daughter in Naples. And Adrian is my oldest son. And Gregory, Greg is not a junior. His name is Gregory. So a lot of people try to make him a junior, but he's not a junior. He's Gregory Marquise. And so he's the middle one, and then my little baby girl name is Marche.
And they're active. I know we've seen Greg around singing and
Yeah.
you know, active in the ministry.
Yeah. Greg is tremendous voice. Man, you're going to hear him. You're going to hear him later in life, you know. And on iTunes and some of these big shows, you're going to hear him. In the gospel recording charts, you're going to hear him. And Marche sings on the praise team. Adrian is the MD at the church, the minister of music director. He's that person. And Mom, you know, she's the praise and worship leader. She's out there making it happen every Sunday.
Area
and also
prophetess.
preaching. Yeah, and also sharing the gospel. You know, she's all around. Thank God for my family being, you know, blessed like that. You know,
Your testimony continues to go. The journey continues to continue. Just tell the people where they can find your book.
well, you can go to Amazon. You can go to Books of Millions, and as well as Barnes & Noble. You can get the book there on those websites. Just type in, you know, The Journey from No Man to God's Man. You can get the book, or you can go to my website. That's right, the www.GregoryFordInternationalMinistries.org, and you can get a copy of the book off our website. We'll be more than happy to be a blessing to you, and thank you for your support.
I'm sure everybody would love to read your book. Once they get it, they're going to be happy they purchased it.
Yes.
I'm very happy for you coming here, joining us today on
Thank you,
Pillars of
Martin.
Success. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you.
You
man.
are a pillar of success in this community.
Thank you.
We thank you. Continue to strive in this community. Continue to building the journey. Once again, I'd like to thank you for joining us here today. On behalf of me, Massive Technology Community TV 1, I'd like to thank you for joining Pillars of Success. Stay tuned.
The City of Fort Myers has supported new and early stage businesses by providing a location and technical assistance to new business owners. Tenants also have access to free business consulting, professional receptionist office, free Wi-Fi, 2 conference rooms, a large training room, copier and fax. Many new businesses now operating successfully have had their start at the Southwest Florida Enterprise Center. If you have a business idea, call 239-321-7085 and come join us.
You ever wanted to know what's going on in and around your community? CommunityTV1.com is your answer. Go ahead, log on to www.communitytv1.com and get your info on.